Hi there. My name is Matt. I'm a full-time reseller, primarily on eBay, also Poshmark. I sell mostly clothing. And I had this idea for a video series of using spyglasses to film POV footage of sourcing. Because I think, as great as all the what's sold and haul videos are, they don't really give you the full picture of everything involved in the sourcing process and thrifting, effective thrifting, and everything that they don't buy is just as important as what they do buy, which is what the purpose of these videos is, so that you can see in real time what I buy, what I don't buy, and what my process is. So I got these spyglasses. I realized upon reviewing this footage a little bit, the lens is a little more zoomed in than I thought, and it films at a bias. So some of the time, my phone is not going to be fully visible, and the stuff that I'm looking at is not going to be fully visible, which might be a little frustrating. So I apologize in advance. And also, I ended up running into another reseller friend of mine in here who didn't know that I was creepily filming her with spyglasses. So I cut those parts out. So I was thrifting. The whole duration of this video was originally around 60 minutes, and with her parts cut out, it's down to 40 minutes. And this is just one portion of the day. So I kept thrifting after this for another, I would say, at least 2 hours, maybe 3 hours. Okay, so here we go, opening up. I'm the third one in. This is around 9 in the morning. Oh, and please ignore the date and time at the bottom. That's a setting with the glasses I can't figure out how to remove. So beelining it straight for the electronics. When the thrift store opens up when it opens up first thing in the morning, you want to hit the places that are going to have the highest value items and get the most traffic. So if there's anything valuable in the electronics section, it's not going to last. That's where most people go first. And it's also where the most high value stuff typically is, or a lot of it. So I spotted this Apple, didn't really catch it on the glasses. There was a wireless Apple keyboard vintage from around 2008, 2009. And I ended up not actually buying it because I just didn't want to deal with the shipping. I stood to make like $5, which is fine for clothing because I have a process that's pretty streamlined. But for electronics, I just didn't want to deal with cleaning it up and stuff if I was only going to make $5. So I'm just kind of going through the bric-a-brac here. The electronics section was pretty sparse. I don't do the big electronics like VCRs and DVD players, etc., unless it's something really special. I'm looking for stuff that is a little more handheld size, something that's easy to ship, which is what we all want, something that is very valuable and easy to ship and easy to list. So just kind of blew through there, and I didn't spend a lot of time looking at the keyboard because when it's early in the day like this, you want to just grab and go. You want to grab everything that is of high value that you suspect might be valuable right away, put it in the basket and go, because it is a beat the clock situation. If you live in a big city like I do, I'm in Los Angeles, these thrift stores just get absolutely packed, especially this one. This is a fairly large Goodwill, and you'll see over the course of even this first hour of Goodwill being open, it just gets slammed. So this was a close call. This is a pair of Nikes. I don't remember what the make was. I don't know a whole lot about sneakers. The cool thing about Nikes, all the major brands of sneaker is they have the model number printed on the actual label. So you can go in and just look up Nike and then the string of numbers, which again I failed to catch with my magnificent cinematography skills here. Also, realizing now, watching this, focus is an issue. So let me just narrate what I'm doing here. I'm looking up the serial number, and what I'm looking at is a handful of metrics to decide whether or not I'm going to buy it. I gave it kind of a quick once-over glance at the quality, and I didn't see any major outstanding issues right away. So I'm just assuming that it's sale worthy when I'm looking this up. So I look up the string of numbers, I look how many actives there are, and then I go into solds and I compare. So my business model, I really only buy stuff where those two numbers are roughly equivalent, or where the solds are 2 or 3 times higher. So the way the solds work is that number corresponds to how many items sold within the last 90 days. And from that, you can extrapolate a general sell-through rate per month. So if it was 90, if 90 of those had popped up in the sold listings, that's 30 a month. And then I'll compare that. I'll go into the actives, sort by lowest price to highest price, buy it now, and then I will see what the lowest comp is that's currently active on eBay. Because I price very, very competitively, I tried to do a quick flip. So from that number, if it has a high sell-through rate, and if the quick flip price is high enough to justify the labor of listing it and flipping it, if I make a good ROI on that, then I will go in and dig deep and look at the quality of the item very granularly, even a couple times. And that is where those shoes didn't make the cut. So they made it through that whole gauntlet that probably sounds more complicated than it is now that I've spent a lot of breath on it. They just didn't hold up. They had a big flaw right in the sole. They were all chewed up. I didn't see it. So again, I hit the electronics, then the shoes. Now I'm looking at the glass case. This draws a lot of eyeballs. People come in off the street. This is the first thing they look at. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time typically on the glass case, because this Goodwill, like all Goodwills, it can eat up your time trying to get an employee to come over and help you if you see something that's potentially worth money. So here I'm looking up this PlayStation game. It's like a roller coaster sim. I don't remember exact theme park. Yeah, you can kind of just, if you full screen this video when you're watching it, you'll hopefully be able to read that text. I'm realizing this this pair of glasses was only $20. Clearly an Alibaba arbitrage item for eBay. The quality is decent for what it is, but if these videos end up being something people like, I'll have to upgrade to some nicer equipment. So that cut right there was when I ran into my friend. We talked for a bit, talked some politics and reselling. So now this is really my wheelhouse. I mostly specialize in men's shirts and sweaters. And I do these racks quick. And when you have a lot of experience, you'll be able to just bang these racks out. You have to know what your metrics are. You have to know what you're looking for. And I'm looking just basically only for sell-through rate. I'm looking for pieces, brands that are in high demand. And anytime I run into one of these pieces that looks like it's quality, but I don't recognize the brand, I will always look it up, because these little niche brands are where you get that really sweet spot of the thing being worth a decent amount of money and it having a high demand and low supply. So a good example of this is the brand Mack Weldon. Mack Weldon, they mostly do underwear, but they do shirts as well. And anytime if you look up Mack Weldon on eBay and you run that experiment that I described, doing the actives versus solds, you'll find whatever you look up, it's like 2x, 3x solds versus actives. But there's not a lot. There'll only be like 100 or 200 active items. And that's really what I'm aiming for. I'm aiming for that, hopefully on that exact scale of like 1 to 300 active listings, which means there's not a lot of competition, but a high demand. But you can run that with the bigger brands too. A lot of the times I'll just do what I call fair fight items, where the actives and the solds are the same exact number or close, meaning that there's a high likelihood that you'll end up selling the item within 90 days. It's almost guaranteed in 3 months you will flip the item. Maybe not for a huge amount of money, but it will move. And that's what I want. A good example of that is Patagonia. Patagonia is not in super crazy high demand, but it's consistent. It sells through, all of it sells eventually, maybe not for as much money as you'd think, but if you price it right and it's not an egregious mistake, if there's not some heinous flaw, it will sell. And that's all I'm looking for. So that constitutes like 80% of what I buy. And then I'm also looking for the long tail items that are worth potentially a ton of money. And those are the items that I'll roll the dice on. Okay, so I just picked up and ran because they made an announcement over the PA that they have a cart of new merch coming out. And this is critical that you do this. If your thrift stores in your area also have this same system where they announce new merchandise coming out on the floor, you need to learn where it will go, where it will stop, and what the protocol is. And be there first. You need to be a little bit of a dick. And that's where the money is. I would say at least a quarter, maybe a third of the actual money that I make in my business is from being a dick at the carts and at the racks. And by dick, I don't mean actually aggressive, shovey, etc., but fast and decisive, and you need to understand that it is a race, and you need to win the race. And actually this very spot, the reason why I adopted that attitude was because one time one of these carts came out, and I was half a second later than this other guy who grabbed a 3D printer.
Everything in a jar. Right.
That was worth like $200 or $300. He bought it for $7, and I was just like an arm's length from this cart. So as soon as I hear the announcement, literally the second I hear someone come on the PA, I'm grabbing my cart and I'm moving, and I know exactly where to stand. And you want to stand right where the thing is going to stop, because if you don't do that, the crowd is going to shove in front of you. You're going to get boxed out. And at the end of this video, you'll actually see that happen to me. Okay, so as again, you're not really seeing what I'm picking up here. This is a glass jar that's a set of all the materials you need to grow basil indoors. It's like a mason jar with soil and seeds and all that. And that's the kind of stuff that sometimes is worth flipping locally, or I could lot it up. There were 2 of them and sell them. It wasn't a huge profitable item, and the sell-through rate was kind of low, but it was just novel. I actually considered buying this for myself, but my roommate has basil plants already. It was a Betty Boop umbrella that I looked at for a couple lingering seconds. But it's LA, and what's the point? Well, yeah, so I'm still looking at those jars. Ended up passing on them. Glass also obviously is a little bit tricky to ship. High risk of breakage, and when you start putting stuff in boxes and putting a lot of packing material in there, the costs can add up, the shipping costs. So this is my basket, and this is full of stuff I don't end up buying, but it's stuff that I grabbed off of the cart and just threw in the basket. Which is what you want to do. Same goes for the racks. You'll see me do that later. Or maybe not see it because this camera is stupid, but I'll narrate it when it does happen. You just grab the stuff. Whenever there's a crush, whenever there's a lot of competition for stuff, just grab it and look at it later. Just claim it first. If it ends up being worth nothing, throw it back. If it ends up being worth something, that's the only way you're actually going to get that item. And people just grab. I mean, 95% of the people in these thrift stores, and I don't say this derisively because why would they? Because they're not professional resellers. They don't know what they're looking at. They just know that something caught their eye, and there's a lot of people there that are competing for stuff. So people behave this way too, motivated just because they want stuff for themselves. They get really pushy and shovey, and you just have to, if you're thin-skinned about that, or if you're timid about it, you're going to be punished financially for it. Because if you're in one of these really packed, high competition thrift stores, you're just going to get left in the dust. You really have to get in there and kind of throw elbows. Okay, so this is another pair of shoes. This is a pair of, I think, youth Jordans. And I looked at the quality. There were no shoelaces. It was covered in smudges. I was about to throw them back, and then I just decided, just in case there were some long tail, crazy, rare thing that was worth like $100, I would still pick them up and try to clean them up and flip them. And I've done that on accident before. I picked up a pair of Jordans right when I first started buying sneakers. This is like 2 years ago. I picked up a pair that ended up being like a rare infrared colorway Jordan. I think they were 16s or something, 18s. I don't really know that much about Jordans, but I flipped them for like $80, and they were all messed up and in bad condition. So right back to where I was on this clothing rack. This is how it goes in the Goodwills in LA. You have to cram as much as you can in the periods between when the new merch comes out, which is pretty frequent. So this is a great brand, actually. This was a close call. Travis Matthew is one of those items, the polo shirts, the men's polos, one of those items where the actives always match the soles. It's guaranteed sale, virtually guaranteed sale. The only reason I didn't pick it up was because it actually had an embroidered eBay logo on the sleeve. And that kind of stuff, if there's embroidered logos from golf courses or companies or whatever, if the brand is really, really, really strong, I'll still pick it up. But any mitigating factor like that just cuts into your ability to make profit if you're pricing competitively. This one I actually did end up buying. This is a Madewell plaid flannel shirt, women's shirt. You can tell it's women's because when you're looking at it, the buttons are on the right placket and not the left placket on the front, which you see right there. It's on the right. And that's a universal tell that it's a women's shirt. So those blurry numbers are very promising. Just take my word for it. Madewell, I'm just kind of getting my feet wet with this brand. I don't sell a lot of women's stuff, and they make men's stuff as well as predominantly women's, but it's a big brand, and it's one of those big brands where they have little verticals inside the brand that satisfy those criteria of high sell-through, but not everything. So it's worth looking up. And this is one of those items where it was a fair fight. So I actually listed that today when I got home for $20, and it should flip fairly quick. I hope, fingers crossed. In the future, maybe I will slow down a little bit. Here we go. Here's another one that I ended up buying. I expected to list this for between 15 and 20. It's a Peter Millar Summer Comfort. Peter Millar, another big brand. This is, as I described, one of those verticals that's worth investing money in because the Summer Comfort polos have high sell-through, where the normal polos typically don't. So this is actually, I was going to try to flip this for 15 or 20. And when I got it home and looked it up, it has a blue Mustang logo. See right there, it's like a horse. I didn't know what that was, but the numbers were strong enough that I was just gonna, price it low, flip it, make an ROI. And you're gonna see me do some math here, and I'll explain that when I do that. But anyway, this ended up being a college sports team with super high demand. There were 0 actives and 4 solds on Peter Millar Summer Comfort for this team, the Mustangs. I don't remember what the college is. But so I listed it for 30. I'll see if it sells. We might be getting out of the season a little bit. It's autumn, getting into October here. See, I'm really meticulous when it comes to these numbers. And what I'm doing here is, okay, so $17 was what I thought I would end up actually flipping it for, and then I multiplied it by 0.87, which is what you get when you subtract eBay and PayPal fees, and then I subtracted $4, either $3 or $4 for estimated shipping, and that left me with, I think it was $4, which is reasonable ROI. The thing is, I think it was like $6, $7. That's 40-50% ROI. I'll take it. I know that you're not supposed to do that with clothing flipping. You're only supposed to go for 2x, 3x, 10x, 1000x profit items, but that's not how I operate. So it's funny. I didn't realize until watching this just how fast I actually go here. So you saw a flash of that blue polo shirt that I picked up. It was a brand called Johnny O, which is a Southern California brand. Again, with very, very high sell-through rate. I think it's a 2x sell-through. So there's twice as many solds as there are actives. I didn't actually look it up on the phone because I had done that research laying in bed a couple weeks ago, which is a thing that I do. I like to go in and kind of crunch numbers from memory, stuff that I've recurringly seen at thrift stores to see maybe if there's something I'm missing, etc. And that's one of them. I did not end up picking that shirt up because it had something wrong with it, which is another important part of this process. Everything that's in my basket, the clothing, I took it over to an area by a big window in the front that had there's another Johnny O. That one I did buy, but I shouldn't have, because it had yellow armpit stains. And I couldn't see it, even though I looked real close. Dropped the phone there. I'm very cool, very smooth. So the armpits, if you saw on the shirt, it has a really fine striped pattern, which made it hard. It hurt the eyes to look at, and I couldn't. My eyes were playing tricks on me, and I was seeing stains everywhere, and I knew that it was artifacts, visual artifacts. So I just rolled the dice on it. I took it home, and I put it in my photo setup, and I was squinting at it, and I thought maybe I saw yellow on the armpits. And one way, the way that I list stuff now is I will not remove the price tag until I screen it in the super bright fluorescent light of my photo setup. And that reveals flaws. And if it's still immaculate after I do that, I'll take the price tag off. Otherwise, I'll bring it back and exchange it. And that's what I did. I couldn't see it with my naked eye, even in the bright fluorescent light. So I took a photo, and in the photo, stains become much more conspicuous, especially yellow sweat stains, which is a cool trick that I actually just figured out today. But it worked. So price tag is still on. I'm bringing it back here next time I'm here, which will probably be in a couple days. Okay, yeah, these are all, I mean, this is kind of the point of this video, is for you to see the stuff that I'm passing over. And everything that you're seeing is, I've been doing this for almost 3 years now, and I recognize all of these brands. And it's something I either consciously know is not worth any money, or it's something that I recognize. I recognize the brand, like the Tuco or Puco or whatever it was. Nuco that I paused on for a second, and what that was I recognize that brand, but I remember it, but I don't remember ever buying it. I remember looking it up and not buying it, and I trust that instinct in retrospect, so I just pass to save time. You end up glued to your phone the whole time you're sourcing, but whenever you can afford to not do that, take advantage of that. So here comes the rack. And I know exactly where to stand here. Literally, I know exactly where to position my body in relation to the opening that I know that this rack is going to be slotting into here. And if you don't do that, you just get screwed.
Thanks.
Okay, so 2 hands, real fast when the clothing comes out. So Equinox shirts, I sell them, but only a specific kind that has the logo. Here's one that I've sold before. I just grab it, I put it under my arm, and I keep browsing. Anything that catches my eye that I think might be worth money, I just grab it and keep browsing, because these racks get gang banged and you have to move fast. So I just grab it and I'll look it up in a second. I'll put it up on a nearby clothing rack and look everything up on the phone. That's one that feels nice, seems like it's high quality, but I don't recognize it. I almost pass by, but I catch myself and grab it and move. Puma, not worth anything. This one is interesting. I potentially could have made $5-10 on this, but it was a youth. I'm pretty sure that's a youth or something. I looked at the material in case it was goose down. Goose down tends to be worth money. Just kind of universally. It was duck down. I don't know. And watching this over, maybe I should have grabbed that. Since we are coming into winter, that might have been something that made sense to do. But I passed on it. Tommy Hilfiger is a giant brand, and it's really hard to be precise in your buying in the way that I'm describing here. It's just, it comes down to a roll of the dice. Unless it's something phenomenal, unless it's like a total hype beast, giant, big Tommy flag, vintage, mom jeans thing. or whatever, like then yeah, grab it because that all sells. Okay, so we're coming into the beginning of Q4 here, so I have my eye out for any clothing that's new with tags, because people, if you get used clothing as a Christmas gift, it's kind of, I don't know, my family's used to it because they know about my degenerate lifestyle with these thrift stores, but most people don't appreciate it. So new with tags clothing tends to sell better in general, but especially that's true in Q4. So I put a bunch of stuff under my arm. There it is. I walk over, and now I will take the time to go through and look it up on the phone. On my fuzzy, blurry, distant, out of frame phone. Just punching in some keywords. This is not a good brand. I would never, ever, ever buy this used. I think they must sell it at like Marshalls or something. I see it all the time. So 47. So I think these numbers were good. I was gonna pull the trigger on this, but I didn't shoot on it because I found a flaw. So when you're running narrow margins like this with clothing, which is typically what I do, I price cheap. I know people, if you want to do the thing where you price it for how much you want for it, you need a gigantic inventory and probably employees to be able to house enough merch to actually be able to make ends meet. So there's a flaw. So if I don't know, I train myself to, the second I see something wrong, unless I know it's something that's worth a ton of money, I'll just throw it back. It's tough not to get emotionally attached to some of this clothing after you get the thrill of the find, if it's something that is special or you've sold it before. But at the end of the day, this is about money, and it's not about a cool clothing hobby. So anything that jeopardizes your ability to make a decent ROI, just hack and slash and move on. I really wish you could see these numbers. This is really important for you to see. So next time I do this, I'll hold the phone out farther from me and more in frame. Ran the numbers, and it was nothing. It's usually nothing, but sometimes it's really something. I mean, on these very racks in this very store, I've just grabbed stuff because it sounded European, and I ended up selling it for like $100. And that happens more often than you think. So if, over time too, you develop a tactile sense of quality in clothing. You handle enough hundreds of thousands of pieces of clothing, and you develop kind of a sixth sense. So again, heard an announcement in the middle of this process that a new March cart was coming out. And you have to, whatever you're doing, as annoying as it is, as exhausted as you may be, which I was at this point from running around, you just have to pick up and move. You have to move. Because it's always worth it. Or almost always worth it.
One of those.
Sometimes the carts are duds, like this. There was nothing valuable on here. Other times there's a 3D printer that you just missed. Looked all this stuff up. Again, this is all stuff I just don't recognize. I'm not a sneakerhead. I don't care about sneakers beyond my ability to sell them, to pay my rent and pay for the stuff that I like. But if it looks like money, then it might be money, and just grab it and look it up. I mean, really, all this screening process that I'm going through now and that I'm describing is you're asking eBay, you're asking the market if they want the thing that you're looking at. You look to see what the supply and demand is. You see if the demand is higher than the supply, and if the demand is there, then you supply the buyer with the thing that they want at a cheap price. And you let the numbers do the thinking for you to a certain extent. And if you follow that, if you're always selling stuff to people that people really want, then your business will be more healthy. And that sounds probably overly simplistic, but it took me a hardcore year of full-time selling to decouple my mind from this kind of predominant paradigm in reselling of just like you see a brand that you like and that you have an idea of it being like a good brand to sell, and then you operate on that level of like, oh, that's a good brand, I can I'll get 30 for that or whatever, and you never really bother to go back and reevaluate or ever evaluate in the first place because it's a brand that you saw on YouTube, or it's something that you got lucky and you like flipped for $50 one time and it was a total anomaly, and now you just have this Pavlovian thing with it. I mean, that was me for the entire duration, the first half of my reselling career. That's how I operated. I would write down all the BOLO lists off YouTube and just buy, because you get addicted to the the dopamine hit of whatever, finding the label that you want. But it doesn't make you money. It mires your money in inventory that doesn't move nearly as quickly as it should, or make enough money to really make that hang time worth it. So when I started doing this high sell-through model, I ended up just passing over a lot of brands that previously I would have considered A+ brands, and it's a bunch of stuff that you hear people talk about on YouTube. Stuff like Under Armour, unless it's a specific jacket or something, or any of these big name brands. Nike stuff I typically don't touch, unless again it's something really unique, and it's something that I can be precise with looking up. It's not just like Nike yoga pants size 4. Almost none of that stuff is going to satisfy my criteria of high sell-through. And maybe that's a mistake, but I don't think that it is. I want my money to be in a position where it's invested to move and to make an ROI in a relatively quick amount of time, because I'm doing this basically to break even living in LA. I need rent money, I need food and gas money, and I need it quickly. I need it consistently, and that this high sell-through thing satisfies that. Anyway, I'll stop beating that dead horse. But don't be emotional when you source, and don't fetishize brands unless there's a good reason to, unless you have math to back it up. Because a lot of those flips will just be anomalies, and you want predictability and consistency, or at least I want predictability and consistency, unless I'm selling stuff that's listed for like $150, $200. Then I'll wait on it. Anyway, I feel like I talked in that circle for a few circuits. So this is an older rack. This is in the new clothing rack area, but there were too many people on it when it came out, or something. I don't know. Something happened. I couldn't get to it until now. Even if the new clothing racks have been sitting out for a while, even if they've been sitting out all day and the employees haven't gotten around to putting them out on the floor, still go through them, because if you have any experience, if you have any intelligence as a reseller, you're going to find stuff that, 95, 99, 99.5% of the general population are not going to recognize as something worth buying. So the fresher the inventory, generally the better, but it's amazing the stuff that you find just in the general collection. I found at this thrift store, I found a Bathing Ape shirt that had just been sitting out there for who knows how long. It was in the t-shirt section, which might explain why nobody bought it, but the fact that a Bathing Ape shirt could make it through the entire the whole process of being put on the clothing rack, wheeled out, having the frenzy of people flipping through it when it first comes out, sitting out and then making it all the way to the floor, even for an hour, is just astonishing to me. And that should illustrate the fact that even in these overpriced, picked over Goodwills, there's plenty of opportunity if you know what you're looking for, or if you know how to figure out what you're looking for. You know, you don't need a ton of experience to do this if you do it in the way that I'm doing it, where you look up the brand, a few keywords, and then you are precise in your math. You don't have to have the years and years of experience doing this to be able to make money. Here I am talking that circle again. I was getting towards the end of the video here. Again, this was just the first part of the sourcing. I did this for probably 3 or 4 times as long as you're seeing. And when I got home, I had, I think, 7 items that I bought. I bought those shirts that you saw, plus a couple others that you didn't. And there was a vintage Jimmy Buffett hat that I bought. It was probably worth like $30. Again, high sell-through. And a pair of shoes that I might end up keeping for myself. And that's it. But I'm happy with that. I didn't make a ton of money, but it's stuff that I know is virtually guaranteed to sell within 90 days. And the fact that I priced it as low as I did, right at the bottom of the market, means I'll probably sell it within 30. A lot of it will probably sell within a week. There's a kind of martial art that goes into browsing these new racks. I don't think you can see it here, but there's a woman who is about an inch from my right shoulder who is browsing next to me and reaching over and being annoying. And then she flipped over to my left side. The camera's not picking any of this up, but she circled around to my left side and started shoving clothing down the rack at me. So I've learned to, you have to, as you're browsing, depending on the direction the shoving is going to come from, you use your free hand to brace against those hangers. So you create a space for yourself with your shoulders, and then you literally physically with your hands hold the space as you're browsing. Tons of tricks like that you have to learn. Because if you don't do that, you just get edged out, and then you end up missing them. I mean, the other day I was thrifting, and I was snatching stuff so quickly and aggressively that it actually pissed the guy off to the point where he picked a fight with me about it. So, I'll keep doing it too. I'm not behaving in that way just to be annoying. I'm behaving in that way because this is how I pay my rent, and this is how I feed myself. And you have to be really firm. You have to be really kind of aggressive. Not aggressive, but insistent and entitled in a good way, not in a bad way. But just be the person that is there first, that lays claim to the good stuff in a way that hopefully doesn't piss people off. Doesn't piss people off to the point where they'll actually get vocal about it, like that guy did. But I think he was kind of nuts anyway. Remy a liquor shirt. Obscure alcohols, especially beers, can have really high sell-through and can be worth a lot of money. Brewery t-shirts are basically as valuable as band t-shirts, maybe more so, especially if they're a known brewery. Those are always worth looking up. That didn't end up being worth anything. So I'm going through, those are some shoes that I found. Kohan Grand OS's have high sell-through, typically $50-$60. Those are in my size. I'll probably keep them for myself if they fit me. I haven't tried them on yet. Johnny O's, I didn't end up buying this. Or no, I did. That's the one with the armpit stains. I did buy that. Here's Johnny O's that had a flaw, and I ended up passing on that one. There's the Peter Millar. And a rack is about to come out, and because I was doing this, I wasn't paying close enough. Or no, they announced the rack, and I mistakenly thought it was going to slot into the opening right by me, but I chose wrong, and it went into an opening one rack over, and you'll see the the aftermath of that, of not literally because I was 10 feet too far away when it came out. This is what happens.
Of course.
This is what I'm talking about. You have to be standing right there. And that is me not making money. Not making as much money as I could. That's it, guys. Thanks for watching.